This is SelfWork, and I'm Dr. Margaret Rutherford. At SelfWork, we discuss psychological and emotional issues and what you can do about them, whether that's learning self-acceptance, taking action, or seeking therapy or treatment. 10 years ago, I extended the walls of my practice to reach those of you who might already be knowledgeable about mental health treatment, but also to those of you who might say you'd never darken the door of a therapist. And yet, you are here. I'll answer your questions while I invite you to take a few minutes for your own self-work. Now, I do want to remind us all of something very important and something that I've spoken about before. You can certainly help improve the severity of the depression through these methods, and you can treat it. But remember the whole biopsychosocial term we used before? You're very likely, and I'd venture to say almost certainly, that you have work to do on the way you're living your life. Welcome to this week's edition of SelfWork. There's never a good time to have depression. It's never convenient, nor does it offer some kind of out that's more welcome than not. Depression can steal your joy from you, or really any positive feeling of excitement or simple contentment. Apathy takes over. Energy or a sense of vitality is nowhere to be found. And one of the problems with it, we still don't know exactly what causes depression. It certainly doesn't appear that it's one thing. Usually it's now dubbed a biopsychosocial disorder, meaning there are biological factors involved, such as medical or physical or genetic issues, diseases or immunological problems, age, hormonal factors. Then there's psychological factors as well. Think family history and relationships, whether or not you had safety or was there trauma. And then let's not forget its social aspects, like relationships, cultural factors like racism or genderism, loneliness, social media influences, isolation. Depression can include grief or not. It can look like agitation or not. It can seem like melancholy or not. So when you're looking for a treatment for depression, knowing why you're depressed can be pretty damn complicated. How did you get there in the first place? How long has it been a part of your life? Which may be a very long time where you barely remember being happy or feeling secure, or depression can come on suddenly. But today, we're going to focus on the most recent advances in the treatment of depression, or at least the direction that research is heading, whether that's developing something new or refining something that has existed to improve it or make it more accessible to the people who need it. So today, what's happening in depression treatment research in 2026? Our listener voicemail today asks one question. How do I know if a relationship was meaningful to the other person? I'm not sure of the context here, but we'll talk about our question in the context that makes the most sense. Now let's hear from AG1 Next Gen. As the days here in the U.S. grow warmer and fall is still months away, your body needs all the energy and consistency it can get. And AG1 Next Gen can provide just that. You don't have to guess about what new supplement to add to the already mountain of supplements you take. AG1 Next Gen delivers more than 75 ingredients in one simple scoop that supports your immune defense, energy production, and gut health. So there's no more guesswork and more getting on with life. And they're now easier than ever. Travel packs can go with you wherever your travel takes you, to work, to play, to learn, whatever your journey is about. And they can provide consistency for you even when your summer schedule is all over the place, like mine's going to be. And for someone like me who's staying highly active at 71, that's heaven sent. Visit drinkag1.com/selfwork to get an AG1 flavor sampler and a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2 free in your welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription. That's a $72 value. That's drinkag1.com/selfwork. There are so many roads into a depressed state of being, and you can get lost on almost all of those roads. Maybe the best one-liner I've ever known about in an attempt to describe depression's power is from the author of The Noonday Demon, Andrew Solomon. He said, and I quote, "The opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's vitality. When it's severe, you can feel as if any physical, emotional, or mental activity is so draining, even to consider, that you don't attempt it. Not all depressions are that severe, certainly, but in some ways that very severity is an indicator of how truly bad or out of whack the person suffering from it is. People with depressions that are more moderate may not have that kind of paralysis, but in some ways, their lives are just as affected. So today, in what I hope is a hopeful episode for you to listen to, we're going to focus on the most recent treatment techniques or approaches that have either found approval or will be available soon or are being used in exciting research efforts. As I did my research on this, there was one article that summarized all the most recent information the best, and you'll be able to find that in your show notes. These newer approaches to treatment aren't about therapy today. As we said before, these treatments are being used for the biological aspects of depression, things like problems with the gut microbe. In fact, let's start there. Research on the gut and its links to the brain are one of the hottest new directions that depression research is going. Not only is the vagus nerve, which runs from the gut to the brain and back again, getting studied, but the fascinating finding that 80% of the activity of that nerve is traveling up from the gut to the brain rather than the other way around. Here's what the Life Stance article had to say about that. Recent research on depression is looking more closely at how our mood is connected to other parts of the body, especially the digestive system. Scientists are finding more proof that the bacteria and other organisms living in our gut, known as the gut microbiome, can affect things like inflammation, or how our brains make important chemicals, or how we handle stress. And these factors are linked to depression. So gut issues like inflammation, energy metabolism problems, or stomach troubles may increase the risk of depression or hinder recovery. On the flip side, being depressed can also affect how well we digest food, how hungry we feel, and our immune system's strength. These findings reinforce what clinicians commonly observed in practice, and I certainly do. Mental and physical health are deeply interconnected, and untreated medical conditions can worsen depressive symptoms and vice versa. That is so important to realize, that if you have depression or a lot of stress, that your pain can feel like it's more painful. Whatever physical problem you have can be aggravated, or certainly aggravated in your mind, and vice versa. There's no telling what we'll learn in the next couple of decades. But there are actual new treatments or refinements of already existing treatments that are also very exciting. We covered these quite a long time ago here at SelfWork in their original form, but now it's time to talk about the more refined treatments that are on their way. Let's first talk about transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS as it's known. Magnets are used as a kind of cap-like thing that fits on your head, and the magnets are positioned where their energy will be most effective for the treatment of depression. So it targets a specific part of the brain by administering soft magnetic pulses to areas of the brain known to be underactive and associated with depression. I've had several patients try it who haven't done well with other forms of treatment. The treatments have been everything from somewhat helpful to almost complete recovery. And we're talking for major depression with thoughts of a welcome death. In those cases, the change was remarkable. And that's when TMS was actually in its baby stages. There's so much more known now. In fact, there's a new TMS model developed at Stanford. Initially, you had to have 36 short sessions in the classic TMS. Now there are greatly accelerated models with treatment effectiveness percentages going up. In fact, there's even an FDA-approved headset kind of thing that delivers the magnetic stimulation to you in the comfort of your home. Now, you must be followed by a medical professional for this, but that's so exciting to think about. Let's talk about the progress at Stanford. They've taken this progress one step further. They call it the SAINT, S-A-I-N-T, or the Stanford Accelerated Intelligent Neuromodulation Therapy. Let me say that again. The Stanford Accelerated Intelligent Neuromodulation Therapy, SAINT, is an emerging accelerated form of TMS that delivers more intensive treatment over a significantly shorter period of time rather than those 36 sessions, and relies on advanced brain imaging for precise targeting. Early studies have reported remission rates, that means things are getting better, as high as 75 to 90% in individuals with treatment-resistant depression, potentially positioning SAINT as one of the most promising neuromodulation advances to date. Now, there's a downside. It's only available at specialized treatment facilities, but these things tend to trickle down, and with time, they'll be available on a much wider scale. Now, that is incredibly exciting. So let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. For some, summer is their favorite season. Travel picks up, kids are out of school, and adventure is the focus. But for others, juggling it all can be tough and can lead to overwhelm and counting down the minutes until the kids are back in school, while others worry they're wasting the days of sunshine. Therapy can seem like something that has to wait until the fall when things become more routine once again. But that's the wonderful thing about BetterHelp. You're not tied down to going to someone's office. You can talk to your therapist while you're driving. You can text as the kids are down for a nap or visiting with grandma and granddad. You can have a virtual session from anywhere that has Wi-Fi. So your own self-care, or as I like to say, your self-work, doesn't have to stop. You don't have to just survive the summer. You can thrive. As added reassurance, BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. You get the freedom of virtual therapy while not sacrificing quality. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com. That's better, HELP.com. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We talk about mental health more openly now, but asking for help can still feel hard. BetterHelp's 2026 State of Stigma report surveyed 2,000 Americans and revealed that 85% of Americans believe getting support is wise, yet 74% say society discourages people from doing so. So why, if most of us believe in support, why do so many discourage it anyway? A tough construction worker once told me, I had a bad shoulder, and everybody was glad I got into physical therapy. But if I have depression or anxiety or some kind of mental issue, why wouldn't they be just as glad that I sought help from a mental health therapist? It's common sense. But I think it comes down to one fact. Many problems aren't simply physical, they're mental and emotional. Therapists are trained to help you with that. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. Don't let stigma stand in the way of support. Start therapy with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com. Now let's talk about a new drug that was approved by the FDA as it was so effective for postpartum depression, which is depression that usually occurs after giving birth and is one of the most devastating forms of depression because a woman can feel so intensely guilty for experiencing such a lack of connection with her newborn child. She's very depressed and finding it very hard to even nurture that child. This medication, which was given to these pregnant women, which is zuranolone, could be taken by mouth and began having an effect in only 2 weeks, a much shorter time than other medications have taken. Here's what the LifeStance Health article said again about zuranolone, and I'm quoting, "Current research suggests that future indications may focus primarily on women's mental health. Ongoing trials include investigations into post-stroke depression, though no active studies are underway, for other hormone-related mood disorders. So even though zuranolone is a big step forward, it probably won't be the go-to treatment for everyone with depression in 2026. Instead, it's likely to be used for certain groups of people or specific situations, rather than as a general solution for all depression cases. But there's one more approach that's important, As a clinician, I've seen dramatic results from the drugs ketamine, which can be an infusion or can be intravenous, and esketamine, which is a nasal spray. They now know ketamine works, especially for what's called treatment-resistant depression, but what makes it effective? Once again, because this is very scientific information, I'm quoting the LifeStance article. One notable development in ketamine research is the submission of a single-dose preservative-free ketamine formulation. It's called NRX-100. It's submitted to the FDA for suicidal depression. This investigational treatment has received Fast Track designation, a special status granted by the FDA to help speed up the review and development of therapies that address serious medical conditions and unmet needs. And certainly, the rate of suicidal ideation and actual quote-unquote success is very concerning. Now back to the article. This means the regulatory process may move more quickly, with decisions expected by mid-2026. If approved, it could further standardize ketamine's role in acute depressive crises or for individuals with severe depression experiencing an emergency. Now, I do want to remind us all of something very important and something that I've spoken about before. You can certainly help improve the severity of the depression through these methods, and you can treat it. But remember the whole biopsychosocial term we used before? You're very likely, and I'd venture to say almost certainly, that you have work to do on the way you're living your life. What trauma might you be carrying around that you've never addressed? Maybe you were gay and grew up in a culture or a family that condemned homosexuality. Maybe your parents split up when you were very young and you never really knew your mom. She lost you in the divorce and didn't stick around to watch you grow up. Maybe you were cruelly bullied at school and worked your ass off the rest of your life to achieve, and that you did, but it came with a price. Maybe your brother sexually abused you. Your toddler daughter was killed in a car wreck. Maybe you grew up surrounded by hate and violence. Whatever your circumstances were, whatever your trauma was, it's waiting for you to try to heal. And that healing looks different in every single person. I read a book early in my training called When Feeling Bad is Good. Its major point, it was mostly written for women, was that if you were gay, overweight by your culture's beauty standards at least, childless, old or older than most, had a non-traditional job for a woman, this was written in the 1990s, and either never married or divorced. If you fit any of that criteria, or more than one, and you felt bad, then that was normal, because the culture was constantly sending you a message that you didn't quite measure up. Now, I'd add non-white to that list, maybe even non-Christian, but you get my point, hopefully. When you don't fit some kind of cultural expectation or norm, you can get hurt by that. The same kind of list could be made for men and certainly for non-binary folks, but that's a whole nother episode. Depression is complicated, and too many people are taking a pill to fix it rather than trying to understand what feels bad on the inside. You don't have to go to therapy to figure that out. The self-help industry is huge, and I'm sure you can find an author that makes sense to you and could help you. Therapy helped me figure things out that no pill could have accomplished. But those pills, that medication, that ketamine, that TMS, whatever it is, can be very helpful and sometimes life-saving. But sometimes it's not enough.
SpeakPipe message from drmargaretrutherford.com.
Let's hear a very short and to-the-point question from a listener.
How do you know if the relationship was meaningful to the other person? How do we make that determination?
Again, I'm not sure of the context of this question. Is she talking about friends or a partner? She asks, how do I know if the relationship was meaningful to the other person? It sounds as if this is a relationship that has ended, and she's literally wondering about what she meant, what the friendship meant, what the experience of being connected to her. How did that affect the other person? Would they have fond memories, or would they become someone who didn't have much positive to say about her? The immediate thing that came to my mind, whatever the reason for the relationship ending, how is it that no words were spoken or not spoken clearly enough that she wouldn't know how the person felt about her presence in their life? I'm not naive. I know that many people are in relationships, marriages, partners, friendships, work relationships, where emotions are never talked about. I actually had a guy say to me in couples work one time, I couldn't quite believe it. I told her I loved her when I married her. Why do I need to say it now? There are some things that graduate school doesn't prepare you for. I could tell you a whole lot of other remarks that might shock you, but that's another episode as well. So if that was the case here and the other person never addressed what the relationship meant to them, then that's very sad. The other thing I wonder about is with the idea of emotional closure. I know that I yearned for that after my own divorces. I wanted to sit down with either of them, not both of them certainly, and talk about my own share of the responsibility for what had been right in those marriages and what I had done wrong, what I regretted. And I'd hoped that they'd do the same. Now, I've said to friends that maybe if we'd been able to do that, the divorces may not have happened in the first place. But I didn't get that closure with either one of them. So I was left with the same question this listener asked, except I had a pretty good idea about what they'd say. Anyway, maybe she also yearns for some kind of emotional closure and isn't going to get it. What do you do in that case? You must get internal closure. You must find in yourself whatever forgiveness you'll never get from the other person. You must find the things to smile about that will always be good memories. You must get emotional closure from a relationship that ended or went sour or was never destined to last, whatever it is. So I certainly wish her good luck, and I hope that she can find the peace that she needs. I want to invite all of you to join in the conversation. I'd love to make you a subscriber to my newsletter, and you can do that by going to drmargaretrutherford.com and saying you want to join the conversation. You'll hear from me once a week. That's it. And it's the easiest, really the best way to keep in touch with me if you're curious about what other podcasts might be like or what I have to say by writing about it. And of course, you can subscribe where you listen. Spotify, Apple, there are a whole bunch of people who have subscribed. And I'd love for you to listen there and give me your comments there, especially on Apple Podcasts, but also on Spotify. Comment what you think. It's been very interesting to me since I published the workbook, the Perfectly Hidden Depression workbook, that I've been a little at a loss. I'm so used to having something that I'm working on, like a book or something. It's been kind of strange the last 3 or 4 months to just kind of be, but I'm enjoying it. I'd love to hear from you at AskDrMargaret at drmargaretrutherford.com. If you'd like for me to talk to something specific that's in your life, if you want some guidance or help with whatever that is, from someone who's been a psychologist for over 30 years, that's me. But as always, I appreciate your presence here. I'm very grateful for it. I know you have choices. So thanks for being here at SelfWork. Please take care of yourself, your loved ones, and certainly your community. I'm Dr. Margaret. And this has been SelfWork.